Morning, guys. This is Inside High School Hoops with Ani Amano, my co-host Brian Burton. He's not here today, so we're going straight ISO. Uh, been a lot that's transpired since our last episode. UIL, we had high school basketball. The playoffs, and it's been really entertaining. Got to catch a couple of them, about 3 or 4 games. Playoff basketball is always fun to watch. It may be teams that you've seen 3 or 4 times, but just the atmosphere is different. The physicality, the speed of the game is different, and you get to see how kids really fight to win, especially knowing that it may be their last game of the season. So just on an evaluation standpoint, just seeing how guys compete on a possession by possession basis is really just interesting to watch. I would say my first game that I want to watch, I watched Kimball and Wakeland. Uh, One of the best uh, playoff games that I got to see this so far, which says a lot because I saw some really high level games. Wakeland, VMI signee Cooper Cisco was huge. I mean, about 6'4", 6'5", really shoots the basketball. He was handling pressure well. Wakeland had a lead, had a comfortable lead, had about a 9 point lead going into the fourth quarter. Um, but again, really like what I saw from Cooper Cisco. Is really grown as just a ball handler, someone that can create his own shot. And there was another kid, I don't want to botch his name, number 23, he's a senior. Uh, really gets a lot done for Wakeland. About 6'6", strong body. Saw him guard about 3 or 4 different guys in one possession. Just real switchable of a defender. Rebounds the hell out the basketball, especially on the offensive glass. And he was finishing through contact. Real huge. Him and Cooper were just really, leading the offensive charge for Wakeland. Ultimately, Kimball won, and Arterio Morris, 2022 was huge, especially just getting the ball to the right spots. Second half really started defending. He took initiative to guard Cooper and kind of just make it tougher for him to get his shots. And, Arterio's a really talented player. When he's locked in, he shows why he's one of the best guards in the country. Another one, Chauncey Gibson, another 2022 kid for Kimball that's really talented. Uh, had about 7 points in the last 4 minutes in the fourth quarter. He had two key defensive rebounds. He was making shots. He just played with more energy. Kimball started off slow, and you kind of see that experience. They made it to the regional finals last year and ultimately lost to Lancaster. But coming back, being in a really tough, gritty game where, you're down by 9 in the fourth quarter and each possession is important. They got the lock in. You kind of saw the maturity and growth from those guys. So, really good win. Saw a lot of good things out of Arterio probably only had about 13, 14 points, but just liked how he just really defended. You can see how good of a defender he can be when he's really locked in. And Chauncey, you just saw his versatility as an offensive player. And then you saw that he was getting gritty and getting rebounds down the stretch in traffic. So those were my thoughts at that game. And speaking of regional finals, we're going to have a rematch with Lancaster and Kimball in the regional finals for 5A. So going to be very interesting. I think everybody's ready for that. Another game I got to watch in the 4A level. So I went to watch Dallas Carter and Pinkston play, and another one of those kind of grinded out tough games that was going on at Skyline High School. Carter, Hamilton Ham, and Carter ultimately won the game as well, but it was close. It was a 1 to 2 possession game throughout. Hamilton Ham, a senior, was big down the stretch in the second half. Really got to the spots, showed mid-range game, was making floaters, started defending, and really kind of getting more into the personal space of the opposing guards that Pinkston has. And I mean, what I'm looking at is not just the scoring. The scoring is important, but I did really like how Hamilton kind of got his guys. You can tell he's talking to his teammates and got getting them going, and then that led to a big second half surge for him. Um, Another kid that was pretty good was Aaron Wright. He's also another 2021 player. Uh, Really active, attacking guard. Really got to the basket. Probably had about 3 steals. And that's unofficially. That's me counting them through the course of watching them play. But defensively, really gets at it, and he really gets to the teeth of the defense. Put a lot of pressure on the forwards that Pinkston has and got him in foul trouble. So Aaron's contributions were really, really, really huge for Carter. Carter also has a 2023. Really intriguing. Probably, I mean, you look at his box score stats, he doesn't blow you away. But Reese Bell, and Reese was about 6'5", probably has a plus 2, 3 wingspan, maybe longer, and he has a wiry frame, but he's active, he's long, he really got the offensive glass. And I saw some things with just with the ball, just on some straight line drives. His shot didn't look bad when I kind of saw it in warm ups. He's intriguing. We'll be interested to see how he develops throughout, but very, very intriguing prospect, and he's young. He has a lot of room for growth. For Pinkston, uh, Ding Pate, it was one of those games that I went and watched, and one of Ding Pate was probably just one, and you could say in the top of that list of just how he was going to perform against a Dallas Carter defense that can you say there's 5 better defense in the state of Texas better than the one Carter plays? It's hard. I mean, it's tough, and they get after you. Coach Love goes 5 and 5 in and 5 out of 5, and there's no drop off. And for someone like Dink to continue to handle the pressure and make key shots, you see a lot of. I said Jaden Jones, he's who's at Rutgers right now. I had someone mention young Penny Hardaway for Dink Pate, and I can kind of see where potentially that can be where it was. I didn't get to see Penny Hardaway in high school, so this was someone that really knows the game. Thought that could have reminded him of a young Penny, but Dink's has a high ceiling. Could be as good as he wants to be. Kind of has some got a tech. Kind of can get ahead of himself a little bit mentally sometimes, but he's young. I mean, especially in an environment like that, I thought he handled himself Uh, fairly well. And I think as far as talent and skill, he has it. I mean, can hit shots, got good positional size. He's the primary ball handler. And I'd like to really see where it goes with him going forward. I mean, I remember seeing Pinkston and Coach Cedric, when I first saw him about 2, 3 years ago, I remember it wasn't easy. He kind of took the job the first year, and he had a hard time kind of getting some of the boys to kind of buy in. I know he was stressed out. So just to see him now in a situation and going against a Dallas Carter and in the playoffs, and I think that was the 3rd round, and for them to compete the way they did, Coach Cedric's done a really good job with those boys. So going on to the next game, I watched the news yesterday. Got to watch Lancaster and Mount Pleasant, and I played with my Taco Storm group. I played Mount Pleasant, and they're one of the toughest teams that I had to play just on just toughness. I mean, they're just going to get after you. That press they run just really makes things very difficult. And I mean, they're just very, very physical. And, I know Lancaster, you know, number 1 in 5A, projected to win the state title. And I knew this game was going to be a battle. Some people ask me, "Say, why are you going to that game? Lancaster's going to win with these." And I was just like, I think it's going to be tougher than what you guys expect, and it was. Uh, Mount Pleasant really got at it. It was like I think they're up by 1 at half. Peyton Chisholm, a 2023 kid, played with a lot of poise. Lancaster applies a lot of pressure on you. Coach Farron Douglas has historically done a really, really good job with his boys, and this year is no different. And I thought he was hitting shots. I thought he was working to get to spots. I thought he was poised. Even when Lancaster made runs, he was always steady. And to see a young guard do that, that was big. Zay Chisholm, he's a 2022. He's actually going to go to a post grad after this year. He was solid. 4 quarters, started turning it on defensively, started really intercepting passing lanes, and started getting more physical. You definitely see the talent in Zay Chisholm, but kind of struggled at first. Kind of shot hunting a little bit, but when he calmed down and he kind of started playing within his own pace, and the game started slowing down for him, you kind of saw what he's capable of doing out there on the court. For Lancaster, A&M signing Wade Taylor. This moment, I knew it was, even though Wade did, it was an interesting situation. Marquis Sykes fouled out for Lancaster. Chris Don Morgan, UNT signee, fouled out for Lancaster, and so did Wade Taylor. But it was one of those games where I knew Lancaster, they're very experienced. They've been here before. Although Mount Pleasant also been here before. But, Wade's had the 4 years. And, he just, this moment was just it was just you can tell he carried it as just another game because he's been here before. Was really hitting the shots from deep, fast in transition. The physicality didn't bother him. Uh, Wade, like, so it was a situation where they were up by 6, and Wade knew just to get the ball in his hands. His team was turning the ball over and stuff, and he came down the paint, finished over in traffic, and it wasn't an and one. Should have been an and one in my opinion, but he just made the shot. But it was just like he knew that he needed to do what he needed to do, and that was really impressive. Wade just played with a lot of poise. He knew what needed to happen. There seemed to be a confidence in him that he knew, I'm winning this game. We're gonna win this game. We're good. And so I'm really, I really do like what I saw from him. And then Chris Don Morgan, UNT signing. First half, a little sluggish. Didn't really get a whole lot done. I was looking for him to do more. That second half had 5 blocks. 5 blocks, rebound the ball, was finishing inside. Chris just, he's the biggest guy out there on the floor. And in my mind, I'm thinking, like, okay, when is he going to realize he's a big, there's no one size wise that can physically match up with him. And then it clicked. You can tell in the third and fourth quarter, it was like, man, I'm just going to do whatever I can to win. And he was blocking shots. He was rebounding. He was altering shots. Uh, if he didn't play the way he played in the second half, Lancaster doesn't win that game. I thought, he may only have 4 points second half, but he was just his rebounding effort, his blocking and altering was huge. Really, really like what I saw there. It was just a really entertaining game. I thought the Mount Pleasant, Lancaster was up by 14 going to the fourth quarter, and me, I was up against Mount Pleasant going to the fourth, and I knew exactly what. And Coach Chisholm does a hell of a job with his boys. I was like, oh, here comes the press. Here comes the press, and that full court jump trap is really tough to just kind of navigate through. And they really made a game. And Mount Pleasant, like I said, hats off to them. They're a hell of a team. They're one of the toughest teams. They're one of the best teams in the state that no one really got to talk about. And they ended the season 27-1. And definitely think there's a lot of talent down that area, and they really got to show it, especially in these past 2 years. So, what's coming up? And I know we got my boy Tim Littlefield. I know we got him on here, so he'll talk some Central Texas playoffs. But some other news: you got Jesuit, high school Jesuit. They advanced. They beat Pan Americas by about 21 points. Mansfield Summit also won in 6A. Waxahachie, Duncanville. They're going to go for round 2. We've been waiting for round 2 during district, but we weren't able to get it, and because with COVID. But now we're getting round 2, and round 2 of their matchup in the regional finals is at Waxahachie. I believe it's this Friday, so definitely the game to watch. Some other news, you're going to have I think Dallas Carter and Faye Family, they advance. I think they play each other, so that's a high level game. that when you talk about Waxahachie, Duncanville, then you go Faye Family, Dallas Carter. Those are the games. Those are must watch. I'll definitely be there. It's going to be some really, really entertaining matchups. I know Duncanville's looking to probably get their look back from Waxahachie from that overtime loss. But Waxahachie and Coach Gober, he always got his boys prepared. So it's going to be a really, really fun one to for me to go evaluate and see. Again, I just like watching playoff basketball. Just you see a different motor and energy from the guys, and that kind of can tell you a lot as far as an evaluation piece. One more to note before I get Tim on, we got Amarillo. Amarillo beat Mansfield Timberview. I think it was 54-33. Brendan Hausen had, I believe, about 24 points. Was big. was big for Amarillo. Been big all year. Amarillo's just a really, really tough team because they got strong positional size and they got some depth. With Brendan Hausen, who's a 2022 player, and one of the better players in the state of Texas at the guard spot. And then you got Cade Hornecker, big fella, about 6'10". You got him down low, and then you got a really long, athletic forward, and then DeMonte Woods. I think they both combined for 21 rebounds, which is really impressive. And Timberview had a really good season. You had Jared Washington, Kendall Weaver, two juniors that have really helped lead the pack. And you know, I think one of my guys made a note and said that was the first playoff loss Timberview had since 2018. So for some of those guys, that was their first playoff loss in high school. So that was that's really impressive and a really good really good thing to note that Timberview there's an excellence excellence expectation that they have. So we got Tim on. We're going to talk some Central Texas basketball, and so let's get him. Mr. Littlefield.
What's up, ISO Ani?
I took the name. Brian Burton gave me the name, and here you go.
I got it, y'all. I got it.
Yeah. How's everything been going?
Man, it's been on. We've been on the go, man. Ever since I want to say since really 2 weeks, everything was starting to get crammed together. You had some districts. I think you and I were exchanging text messages and talking a little bit about how some districts hadn't even finished their district games yet, so they didn't even know who was going to be in the playoffs. So all of that has been crammed together, and then of course, everybody had to play 3 games last week, and then obviously everybody kind of get somewhat on a normal schedule this week. So it's been good, man. It's been a lot of fun. I'll tell you that much. Seeing some quality basketball. Saw another really good one last night. Westlake was on the ropes. Yeah. They're ranked number 5 in the state in 6A, and they were able to come away down by 10 with about 4 minutes left. And wound up coming away with a win. So it was really good for the area to really kind of see that level of basketball, that level of intensity. They played against an O'Connor group who was well coached. They had won their district, so it was a matter of a couple of district champions coming together, and that's just playoff basketball, like you were just talking about. Just love to be in the gym, love to be in the atmosphere, seeing kids respond to adverse situations. It's always big to kind of see, who's going to respond in those critical spots.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier, I think playoff basketball, just because it's win or go home, you see a different intensity and just play with those guys. And what's so funny is as coaches, you coach, I'm coaching right now. That's the energy you want from them every
That's all we ever ask, That's all we ever ask. Why do we have to get to that juncture, for you to kind of figure it out that, hey, that's what we've been telling you from day one.
Right. Mr. Alan Branch, he told me, in our camps, he used to say, do you guys know what playing hard is? And some of the kids, they're like, yeah, but they really don't. Then he would say, playing hard is playing each possession like it's the last 2 minutes of a state championship game.
Right.
And it is funny where you don't necessarily see that in a regular season like that. Right. I mean, some games, if the game is big, they will. But in the playoffs, that's what it is. But I know with coaches, I know sometimes they look in. I was talking to a couple I wish they would just play like this all season. We wouldn't even be in this situation.
Yeah, no question.
So for sure. So what other games did you have you watched? And
so like I said, over the last couple of weeks, just trying to be able to see who's who and what's what, and seeing how it's going to all, play out. So all the way down to like 3A, had a chance to go over and go see Cole High School start their run. They were in the state tournament last year and actually won the game just prior to everything getting shut down. So they're trying to get back. Them losing Big Vince, everybody thought it was going to be real significant for them, but Silas Livingston was on fire when I went out to go watch them play. So little point guard, is doing pretty good for himself. And then, of course, Trey Blackmore, who is starting to get some Division I consideration from a couple of Ivy League schools and a couple of other ones that have reached out, inquiring about how he's progressing and stuff like that. So 3A, they're on track right now. They play against London High School on Friday. London has a kid about 6'5", 6'6", the Chesney kid. He's really solid. Plays off the bounce really well, but then creates for others. So that'll be an interesting matchup. But I see Cole, pretty much representing the region. They should win and come out, as far as Region 4 is concerned. And then in 4A, you got Bernie and Somerset. Matthew Soto last night was on fire. Had the chance, to see some clips of him. Had 8 threes last night, and a couple of them were some deep ones. And I mean, when I say deep, coming just nearly across half court. So it's kind of like I don't know how kids like that still get shots like that. People not reading the scout report. It's kind of like, okay, do you not know this kid can really shoot the basketball type stuff? But they're going to run into a really, really good, well-coached Bernie team. Bernie's pretty solid. They got good size. Luke Whitby, Joaquin Gonzalez over there at Bernie. So they got a couple of kids that hurt you, multiple ways. So that one there is going to be interesting. See Bernie probably coming out of that one. Just because of their size and experience, a lot of those guys, are seniors. And like I said, before, well-coached, so they know how to get it done on that level. And then in 5A, Leander Glenn is playing really well down this way as well. So they knocked off a couple of teams this week. Matter of fact, trying to think of who it was. They knocked off Bernie Champion. It's who they were actually playing a couple of days ago. Trey Leak, a kid that they had was 23, really shoots the basketball, really well for them. And then also they have Thompson, who is pretty good, that's been in some of our camps and stuff before. So they got a couple of kids. So I think, Leander's probably going to represent Region 4. They were going to wind up playing against McAllen, who I feel like they have the upper hand against just because of their guard play. So they'll wind up beating them and probably seeing somebody, out of Houston, a Beaumont United or somebody like that who they're going to wind up seeing.
Soto, I've been kind of keeping track. The Texas hard work, they'll tag me in some things that he does and really shoots the piss out the ball and shoots with range. And when I saw 8 threes in the first half, I was like, when I saw first, I thought it was a typo. Like, I was like, okay, probably going into the fourth or maybe it's the end of the game. I mean, for him to knock out 8 threes in the first half, that's really impressive. It just really shows, I know the coach probably had the opposing coach had a game plan. And for Matthew to still navigate through and to still knock down 8 threes, still do what he does best, says a lot, especially in a playoff game. So Matthew Soto is definitely a player that just kind of grown. I mean, talk about like his, he's more of a catch and shoot guy. When I saw him, especially
it's funny you say that though, but the film footage that I've been looking at, it's coming off a lot of ball screens. Doing a really good job of really reading those and how to kind of get to his spots and obviously make plays. But then the last game, not last night, but the prior game to that one, doing a good job of finding others. Getting those guys involved. And so from that standpoint, he's making guys play him honest. So I would say, from a cerebral standpoint, we've always felt like, he was a pretty cerebral kid that kind of understood, as far as spacing, but now he's doing it with the ball in his hand. So that is more impressive for me to kind of see that growth from him. And I think they have a legitimate chance. Like I said, with Bernie's experience and some of their size, I think, that's probably going to be the biggest factor in there, and they're well coached. So, it'll be interesting to see, how they're able to manufacture buckets.
Right. So talk about that Austin Westlake game. I heard it was really entertaining. Talk about how, I want to know how KJ did, Adam. That seemed like a game you had to be.
They had to survive the game before this one. So a lot of teams have now kind of figured out this is how we're going to have to attack Westlake in order to be, successful or to be able to kind of stick around, So the previous game against Johnson, of course, everything kind of goes through KJ, but he did a great job of facilitating. He's really, really looking pretty good, as far as understanding defenses, where they're coming from, understanding how to get to his spots and make good decisions, whether it be him, to pull up before getting a charge. Last night he showed ability to hit the three a little bit, although, we've seen him progress toward that. But then also still willing to share the basketball. I saw him in some critical stages last night. I was shocked that he had kind of given it up, but it was really the right read. I mean, he saw some kids cutting to the basket. He found, a kid that we're well aware of, Nakari Ijihan. He found him a couple of times with some mismatch situations. But when he needed to turn it on, he got some defensive turnovers, got his hands on balls, got downhill. I mean, he's built like a rock. I mean, I'm hearing people, they're sitting around me, talking about him, saying, man, who does he work out with? And, I'm hearing other guys like, man, it makes me want to go home and do push-ups. I mean, he is built solid. I think he's ready, for his challenge he's going to have at KU. He's going to have to obviously have to work on some things, but I think he's going in the right direction.
Good. That's good to hear about KJ. He's a kid that, like you said, strong as an ox. Some people are like, what position he is, and I think he's just a basketball player.
So it is.
And I think it can translate the same way at Kansas. As long as defending, he's using his strength, rebounding, can hit open shots. I know his jumper has improved as far as just his efficiency overall.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be huge. And like you said, he's going to have chances like any freshman. They're going to have the
yeah.
But if he can just kind of figure out, what his role is going to be, and I think he can excel in his role because he's a basketball player at the end of the day.
They're down 10 last night, and I saw something out of him that you could say it's normal for some kids in certain situations, but I saw him have a level of poise. He kind of turned around, looked at some guys, say, hey, man, let's pick it up, let's go. Most kids in their senior year, knowing what's at stake, you down 10 with 4 minutes left, it's your last go around, trying to get to the state tournament. Sometimes you might sense a little panic. Yeah. I never saw that out of him, so I thought that was a level of maturity out of him that I hadn't seen out of really most kids. Like I said, you find some kids, trying to press hard, sometimes for the right reason. I mean, you get it, you understand, you're the guy, but he understood how to make plays. They shoot the basketball really good. Last night they kind of got off to like a little bit of a slow start. Mm-hmm. But Cade Mankel, kid about 6'4", shoots it clean, deep release. He had about 4 or 5 of them last night. One in particular was about 25 feet right in front of the bench, and it was kind of like, hey, we had to have it. That was really the one that kind of sparked their run, and so he kind of got them off and going. He played well in the last couple of games I've seen. They got a Nelson kid. The other kid that really kind of makes them go, and you're very familiar with this one, Ian Mowat. Really, really cerebral. Last night, he was more in the facilitating role. He didn't score as much, but he made plays down the stretch. He knocked down 2 big threes during their big run, but he also got his hands on balls and created some turnovers that they had to have. I mean, O'Connor did the job. I mean, Adam Bingham played about as well as you can play. We got a recap coming out. I call him, like a poor man's Kevin Love. I mean, the fact that the way he rebounds the ball at about 6'5", 6'6", but then, with his size, being able to space the floor, but then also put it on the floor and facilitate for others. I mean, he had at one stretch 18 out of the team's 22 points.
Wow.
3 or 4 threes. One of them was a 4-point play. So, I mean, he was in really, really good groove last night. And it took everything that Westlake had to come out of there with that one, for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how they play San Antonio Clark. San Antonio Clark is another team that came away with a 1-point win last night. Their last couple of games, they've actually won at the buzzer. So the other night they beat Austin Bowie. Jordan Mason, 22, is about 6'3" point guard, playing really well right now. Does a good job of facilitating for others, but when they have to have plays made, he's making them. I mean, he gets downhill, he understands his spots. You may be able to go back to a tweet I sent out as far as his game winner, where he got to his spot at about 14, 15 feet and raised up over a kid about 6'7", 6'8", and knocked it down. So he's the playmaker for that particular group, although they have El Amerilu, who's about 6'5" or 6'6", and they got a couple of other kids. A real intriguing kid they have is Jacoby White, about 6'7". He's a 22. Really, really bouncy. He's starting to come into his own. They have a really good coaching staff over there, so they're working, really getting him in positions where he's most effective. But he's active, blocks a lot of shots, jumps out the gym. So it's going to be a kid that's definitely going to be on our radar that we'll be watching. So that in itself, looking forward to Friday's matchup. Will be intriguing to see how much he actually plays KJ and how much they actually try to go big. That's going to be the key, is if Clark can go big, eliminates Westlake's size, and still also match up their scoring ability.
Absolutely. You talked about Trey Blackmore. He's a kid. He's came to a couple of our camps. I like him. I think he's kind of understanding how to generate his own look. Another kid that was more scoring off spot up situations, now learning how to really come off pick and rolls and score some of the film. I'm just saying, uh, I did know that he was a high academic kid, so that's really good that Ivy League schools have been really showing interest. Just talk about his growth. How has he really matured this season? And it's big that a team like Cole, losing Vince. I mean, that's a huge loss, and we see what Vince is doing at La Lumiere. So I mean, you don't have that, but still in the same situation. Now they continue to advance. Just talk about the growth that Trey Blackmore's had.
Trey is showing maturity in the sense that, again, when you lose, like you just said, events, the normal mindset is, okay, well, how are we going to replace this? So that means I got to score, I got to do X, Y, and Z a whole lot more.
Right.
The one thing I see him doing is, really defensively sound, making some good decisions as far as not gambling too much, things that we saw him maybe do in the past, trying to, make a lot of hero plays. But he's been solid, moving his feet, getting in solid position. Coach Cantu over there does a really good job of coaching those kids up. And so they understand what they have to do as a whole to be good. He's picking and choosing his spots. I mean, he doesn't mind having to drop it off to somebody else. And that's another level of maturity that I've seen before. It's been all about score, I have to score, I have to do this, I have to do that. Now he's really understanding that, hey, there's other ways to this thing other than just having me put the ball in the basket. I can find others. And so consequently, other teams have had to play him honest. So he's knocked down shots. He's shooting it a lot more efficiently, a lot more clean and quicker. Body looks really good. I think he's getting a lot stronger. Obviously still has some work to do. Would like to see him play with a little bit more intensity, in certain situations. But, sometimes the teams that they're playing against every now and then don't require that. And so it makes it tough for them. But, it's playoff time now, so he's got to figure it out. Plus, really got one more go around, through this spring and summer. So in order for him to make some noise, he's going to probably have to pick that level of his game up a little bit. But 1,000-point score for his group. I want to say he's gotten several double-doubles this year, so he's actually rebounding the ball, which I love out of guards. I think, big guards need to rebound the basketball, and pose a threat, doing those type of things. So he's added that to his game as well.
Yeah. Guards that rebounding, again, it's also something I really love. It translates, right? Rebounding just translates. And especially as a guard and you can go rebound, that means you can initiate the transition break. And in the high school level and the collegiate level, I mean, especially that's something huge. So I'm really happy to hear that, he's actually now starting to dump it off and find guys. Yeah. I did think that was something that he really did need to work on because it was kind of a little tunnel vision as far as, especially when he was driving to the basket. Rebounding was huge because I didn't think, there was a toughness level that I didn't see yet from him. And just to see that he's rebounding, that means he's taking some contact and grabbing the ball with two hands and, trying to get physical, which the passing and the physicality and just the toughness part of Trey was always it's a deficiency. And so
sure.
Just really, that's good to hear that he's getting better at that.
Yep.
Adam, I don't want to botch his last name.
Binyahun.
I'm gonna botch it. I apologize, Adam. I ain't gonna botch your last name like that.
I've had to say it at least 30 times and figure it out. Even if I'm typing it out, it's like, did I spell it right? So I get it.
So okay, say the last name for me. I think I'm gonna figure it out.
Ben-Ha-Yoon.
Ben-Ha-Yoon.
Yoon.
Yeah. Okay. Adam. So, has he signed anywhere? Talk about what is his recruitment look like?
Has not, and I would definitely love for. It's hard to really kind of just label kids, but definitely a Division II, Division III type kid. Go to the right Division II, Division III that would allow somebody. He's a true floor spacer in a sense to where like I said earlier, a poor man's, Kevin Love, where he has the ability to bring the ball down the floor last night, he's bringing it down in critical situations, and he's coming off screens or he's setting screens with other, in dribble handoff situations, just creating mismatches. And so, of course, Westlake at the time, early on in the game, was having to try to figure out how are we going to match up with this. So, of course, they rotated KJ over on him a couple of times, and it really didn't deter the game plan. What it really did is took KJ away from the rim and kind of expanded what they could do, backdoor-wise, to open up some other stuff. So it really kind of posed Westlake a problem, and so they kind of figured it out a little bit later on time for them. But, it was the makings, like I said, for an upset, just mainly because of what Adams' ability are. So, I mean, a program that would allow him to grow because he shoots the basketball with such efficiency and consistency, and he understands how to play. He understands he doesn't have to take a whole lot of shots. He's very efficient, with his passing and his rebound ability.
Gotcha. Yeah, I like Adam. I saw him when I came down to San Antonio for our fall league event, and his physical profile does not scream out, player, right?
Correct.
You kind of think, oh, he's probably a football player, like a big tight end. But when you see him play, and I know I've said this in some episodes in the past, he just gets so much done when it comes to just rebounding. He knows how to use his body. Is he a great vertical athlete? No. But he just knows how to use his broad shoulders and size to, really generate space against bigger guys. And then, like you said, he can hit open shots. I mean, he can just hit shots, period, especially in pick and pop scenarios and just catch and shoot. So Adam just, again, we talked about basketball players. He's a basketball player. He has a good feel as a passer. So, when you talk about backdoor cuts or just handoff situations, he just knows how to make those reads.
Easy. Yep.
Yeah, and make it happen. I just think there's a real value. Like you said, there's a level play that fits Adam. And obviously, different climate we're in, especially when it comes to basketball recruiting. College coaches really can't come out and just, all the transfer rules and the guys keeping a year. So I would think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I would think traditionally Adam would probably, his recruitment would probably, he would have a couple offers around this time.
Realistically, if guys are doing their homework, and this is the thing, we talk about all the time in terms of recruitment. Sometimes you got to be willing to go out on a limb and say, hey, you know what? I got to go take a peek. You got to trust yourself. You got to trust your own eyes versus, listening to everybody else's verbiage, because everybody else is not going to see the value. But like you just said, a situation where, you got a pick and pop or somebody, where you need a stretch four where this kid can, be able to do some things. If anything, just to stretch the defense.
Right.
I mean, basketball player.
Absolutely. I mean, like we said, there's definitely a level. There's definitely a level for that, and I think he'll get his. I know he's gonna have to wait a little bit, but he'll get his.
Right.
You like when he gets down to about April, them coaches be blowing our phones up.
Yeah.
And they're kind of doing it right now. So, but it's all good. It's part of the business.
Right.
So let's talk. Before I just letting you know, I'm gonna ask for your predictions of who's gonna make it out of San Antonio. All right, so be prepared for that. All right. Before that, let's go back. Let's go back memory lane a little bit. Just talk about some performances you see in the past in the playoffs, especially in the Central Texas area, that have really stood out to you.
How far you want me to go back?
And you go back as far as you want.
Oh wow. So being an old East Central Hornet, I had to bring up Tony Terrell and having 62 against San Antonio Highlands back in '88. We wound up going to state that year. We had to play Victoria in Victoria. I think it was 55 in their building. And at the time, they were like 32-1.
Mm-hmm.
Go all the way back. He had some significant runs. You can go and look up like what Marcus King was doing. People are looking at him now. Marcus King was the name, that was in the G League a little bit and played overseas. Hit some really, really big buckets, led Warren all the way to the state tournament back in his senior year. Torian Prince, who's now with Torian Prince is with Cleveland.
Okay.
So he was on that roster. Trying to think of some other ones that were really good. Stanley Bonowitz Jr. Had some really big performances, including the state tournament against Dallas Carter in '95 where they won it all. Trying to think. Defensively, I mean, people don't really kind of, recognize defense a whole lot. Bo Outlaw and what he did for John Jay back in '89, straight rim protector. I mean, he just made it so difficult on people. On the flip side of that, not even just in Central Texas, but, just basketball alone, Tim Glover. Tim Glover out of Houston Clear Lake was a straight knockdown guy. Him and David Buckner, those guys there were they were a load. I remember seeing in the state tournament. And I remember them watching them beat San Antonio John Jay in that particular year. TJ Ford against Judson. I saw Leonard Pooty Brown go toe-to-toe with TJ Ford, and that's kind of one of those that Judson kind of let it get away from. I think they were up like maybe 6 or 8.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Ewing and TJ Ford, that was in the midst of that run where they had won like 72 or 73 straight.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The San Antonio Lanier teams, what they pulled off here in the city was remarkable going up against what they were going up against. Because I remember Sam Houston would have lineup similar to like college lineup, 6'6", 6'7", 6'7" across the front. Lanier, would not match up from a size-wise, from a skill standpoint. I mean, they had guys, he had Orlando Mendez and all of those guys that, put up a lot of numbers for those particular schools. Also, Josh Martinez and kids like that. I'm trying to think. State tournament-wise, Chris Bosh, Brian Hopkins, the Lincoln years going against Kendrick Perkins, and the Beaumont Olsen groups, those were games that kind of stood out to me. I mean, you talked about it earlier. Playoff basketball, I remember going to the state tournament. I would go every year. The beauty of it was getting out of school because we'd have to turn in the slip and say, hey, we're going to be out. We're doing professional development, going to the state tournament, going in to see games. And, staying there all day, seeing who's the next one, kind of coming up. But Brian Hopkins, Byron Eaton, Chris Bosh in their year that they wound up beating Kendrick Perkins and those guys was a standout game. Trying to think. A couple of other ones. I mentioned that one. Those were probably the few that kind of stood out to me as far as significant performances.
We went about 35, 40 years. We really went. And people that don't really know me, I'm like, I love history, right? So that's why, like, I'll be with Mr. Branch, and we'll go back and talk Ralph Sampson days, and a lot like that. So I mean, you talk about some legends. You talk about with TJ Ford and Chris Bosh and Bo Outlaw. That's a name I haven't heard of in a long time. I think he played for the Magic, right? He was a kind of a journeyman in the NBA, but played a lot of years.
Yep.
So let's kind of talk about, okay, you talked about 1988, right? And then, we're in 2021. Talk about how the basketball was in 88, in the 90s, and now. Just talk about, like, especially, let's just go playoffs. Like, how were the games compared?
It was so intense to the point to where, as you well have heard and know, only 2 teams were getting in the playoffs.
Okay. Yeah.
So only 2 teams were getting in. So there were some loaded teams that did not make the playoffs in certain regions and certain districts. And so it made it extremely tough. So the games themselves were automatically intense. You could not afford to give up a game or 2. I remember, my senior year in '89, Seguin was really, really good. And I remember getting phone calls, and we would see each other all the time from some of my friends that played on that particular team. They were like, man, y'all need to beat Judson, please, just so we can actually just get in. So it's not like now where you got 4 teams that get in, or a few years back where they allowed 3 to get in. All it was 2 that got in, and so it made it extremely tough. So that was the fun part. And obviously, you know, everything was accelerated with only 2 teams getting in. So everything, you know, was happening, you know, pretty rapidly as far as the rounds. I think right now it's like 5 or 6 rounds that you have to go through just to get to the state tournament.
Yeah.
And then it was like, you know, you win 4 games, you buy district, you win area, and then you all of a sudden you're in regionals. So that in itself. And so in comparison, it's kind of like we say, you know, having to play to win, you know, a win now mentality. It was that way throughout the regular season, and obviously it transferred over into the playoffs. So it was a lot more intense in a sense. I'm not saying that the kids, you know, are not as good, because obviously, you know, nowadays kids are, you know, much longer, bigger, faster.
Right.
But it was a lot more intense. I remember, what was it, 86, 87, there was no 3-point line. But I remember guys still scoring 30 and 40 with no 3-point line.
That's impressive.
Shooting it from deep. And so, you know, that's just the thing. So the evolution of the game in that sense, to where the 3-point line has had such a significant factor. And obviously, you have bigs that are stretching the floor and the ability to be able to hit it, when before, you know, it was now, okay, you got a big kid, you're going to try to stuff him in the middle and try to make havoc on everybody, you know, inside. And so the evolution of that. But as far as the competitiveness, I think it was very competitive back then in the 80s and 90s. And even the early 2000s, you know, very, very competitive, just because no one wanted to go home. Now, you know, you feel like you have a cushion. You know, you come in third, and sometimes it's like, okay, we came in third. Okay, you came in fourth in your district. Okay, we came in fourth. And sometimes kids are okay with that. I mean, I know as a coach, sometimes, you know, you want to just get in, because some districts are stronger than others.
Right.
That's the other thing. You got some districts that I want to say it happened in Sky Ranch, and who else is in that district there? Side Lakes and somebody else, where their whole district, I think, won their first 2-round playoff games. So they went like a total of like 8-0. So some districts are just kind of just set up where they're stronger than others. But then there's others that, you know, they're just kind of discontent. And so they kind of just comes out in the wash after all. You know, if you're not competing, if you're not playing, or if you don't have guys to make those plays, you know, it's not going to happen.
Right. No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. I did not know only 2 teams went in, and if that'd be interesting if that was kind of implemented now. What that would look like. It would be so crazy. The teams that don't get in because of that would be very interesting, because I want to say there's probably, I'm not too sure, but, and maybe you know better than I would, but there's some third or fourth seed teams like out of districts that made a pretty decent run this year. Well, I do know there was a few, so that's kind of I guess it's just interesting if you kind of look at it now. Some of the teams that were a third or fourth seed and made a 2-3 round difference, you know, they wouldn't even have a chance.
I'll tell you this, as you well know, sometimes all it takes is for you to have a player or two.
Yeah.
That is pretty good, and all it takes is for you to get in, and you can do some damage. So, going back to that scenario we were talking about the very beginning segment when I came on, as far as the district crunch and everybody trying to get all their district games in. So some teams had to play 3 or 4 games in a 3-day span. So Wagner was one of them. Wagner, having the best player in the city, had to win 2 out of 3 of those games just to have a shot. So they play a total of like 5 overtimes in that 2 or 3 day span.
Wow.
And don't get in, but I said that to say that if they do get in from a matchup standpoint, although they would have been the 4th seed, potentially even the 3rd, depending on how another playoff would have worked out, they had a chance to probably win 2 or 3 games. So that's just the significance of matchups also, as far as like, you know, when you start talking about seeding and different things of that nature. So that's the other factor. When you have 3rd or 4th teams, sometimes those 3rd or 4th teams can come in and knock off number 1s in other districts and go on a significant run if you have a player or two.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. And it's fairly common. You see it every year where a 3rd or 4th seed team does knock out a number 1 seed from an opposing district. Like you said, in basketball, you know, there's 5 guys on the court, but you got one guy that's a bad dude, one that can really, really play. I mean, it always gives that team a chance.
Yeah.
talk about, so the district was interesting all across the board in Texas. I mean, I know some teams that had to play like 6 games in 8 days, uh, which is kind of unheard of, especially when you talk about just high school basketball, especially district. And I got to follow a couple of kids and kind of see, like, how they had to take care of their bodies throughout, how coaches had to, how practices were shaped and stuff like that. Just talk about, was that, like you talked about Wagner, was that some other schools that had to kind of go through that, like 5, 6 games within like an 8-day stretch?
5 or 6 games was crazy. First of all, I have to take my hat off to the coaches, just getting together and trying to say, hey, when can you play? When can you play? What's fair? What's not fair? So take my hat off to the coaches, just really kind of getting together and figuring it out, because of course they have to assess their own situations. The kids, I thought after like day or 2 or 3, you could really kind of see, even philosophically. I know down in Manor, I was talking to coach. They had to change up typically how they play. Manor's an up and down, in your face, make you work 94 feet type team. They had to change up some things philosophically that they wanted to do or had to do just to be able to get through 2 or 3 games. And that was run a lot of zone, do some other different things that they're not really accustomed to doing, or just not really a good fit for what they like to do. So with that being said, it was like, hey, we got to do what we have to at this point in time. Okay, so this team here, we have to figure out how we're going to play them. And so, of course, it came down to, do we do load management? No, you can't load management, because some of you're trying to win. You have to win to stay in this thing. And so all of those different factors really kind of came in to play. I remember even going back to the Wagner situation, they played Judson at 11 o'clock on a Saturday morning and had to turn around and then play against South End at 2 o'clock. So I was asking administration, because that game went into double overtime. I said, okay, is the other school, are they going to grant them some more time to get over there, whatever? I said, nope, game time is set, and they're not going to waver from it. So
wow.
Immediately after the game, they had to get on the bus and drive all the way across town to go play.
Wow.
So you got fans, you got coaches, because even coaches from the other schools that were, even from the districts who they were potentially going to play in the next round for playoffs, they're trying to figure all this out, because now they're having to travel and say, okay, well, I got to scout this team. I got to scout this team. So you had a lot of guys really have to try to figure it out, how they were going to try to get this done. And it was happening all across the state of Texas. I didn't like the fact that they made that decision that we have to get it in by this certain time. I mean, I understand it. Alamo Dome may only be available at a certain point in time. And so all of those factors are coming in. So the load management, a lot of wear and tear, even the officials, so they had to really kind of notify officials, hey, be on standby for this game here, because we might have to play a playoff game or a play-in game for a playoff, all of that type of stuff. All of this conversation was kind of going around, and so nobody really kind of knew a lot what was going on behind the scenes. So it's funny that you asked that question to try to bring light to everybody else what's actually going on, what people have to deal with, because they really don't know. O'Connor going into the playoffs had not practiced or played a game in a month.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
For 2 weeks, they were out with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Then the ice storm hit. So then they come out of the ice storm, and then, of course, now it's like, we got to get these games in.
Yeah.
So they had one game left. And I tell you, while we're talking about the districts, some districts got creative and only certified their first round. It's like Duncanville and Waxahachie did, or just certifying their first round. That's what O'Connor and their district did. So the back end of their game became non-district games. So some opponents said, hey, I don't want to risk injury, COVID exposure, this or that. We'll just pause.
Yeah.
So O'Connor's first couple of games was like, hadn't played or touched the ball in a month. It's tough.
That is tough. That's tough, and that's so crazy. And they go in the playoffs. They really ain't touch basketball. They ain't even practice. Kids are working on their own some. the blizzard kind of shut a lot of that stuff down too.
Right.
And it's just hard. They made 4 rounds deep. O'Connor did.
Last night was round 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So you talking about a team that didn't play for a month. And I know they were out of sync in some capacity.
First couple of games, they actually almost got beat. So we talking about the whole 4-1, how a fourth can possibly be the first.
Yeah.
They were on the verge, had Laredo Nixon taking care of the ball. They wound up winning their first game in overtime.
Wow. It's just tough, teams doing that. And then it has also O'Connor, for staying in it and making it that deep. Those stuff for other schools. I know I talked to a couple guys. I mean, that were just like, they ain't played in about 2-3 weeks, and
right,
and they're coming in playing a big district game that Friday or that Monday or that Tuesday. So it was really interesting. And then for some people, like I know Grapevine, for example, I know they that district, like Birdville and Richland Hills, those guys had to play like 6 games in 8 days, and every game matters, right? And especially in a district like in a competitive district like that. So just seeing kids, having to ice their bodies like every day, or they'll take care of it, or when they get to practice, they're gonna get a couple shots up, but they're gonna go home and rest. And then just those back-to-backs. I mean, but one thing about it is those kids, the players are fairly used to, because in the summer, sometimes they're playing 2-3 games a day. Obviously different, right? Compared to not saying that a club summer spring ball game is not important, but when you're talking about district and seeding, holds a lot of weight. And then a showcase game, it's just weighted different, right? But the kids are fairly conditioned to play 2-3 games out in a day. So, you kind of got to see some of how guys got to push through, and, they're more just adapted to it.
Right. And I think that philosophy alone is probably what got some through it. I think that even probably weighed a factor in how they chose to schedule it, because I was like, okay, we're talking about high school kids. Some of them are well-conditioned, some of them not, but
right.
Then you got the ice storm factor in there. I'm like, okay, there's no condition involved. So my biggest gripe against the whole situation was the fact, okay, you can not only be setting us up for injury, but bad basketball. Because if somebody hadn't touched the basketball in a week and a half, who wants to see that with playoff bursts on the line, or, in playoff games? I'm like, I definitely don't want to see teams out there going 0 for 10 from point blank range or anything like that. So I'm never a fan of bad basketball, and I thought that's what it was setting us up for.
Yeah, we watch enough bad basketball as it is in a year. It kind of feels like unlimited, right? So when the kids already not playing, not practicing, you see them, you kind of assume. And it's funny, like I would go to games and I would evaluate, but sometimes it wouldn't hard evaluate. I was like, okay, this kid ain't touched ball in 2 weeks. So, if I just see these things, okay, I'm good. I just want to see. I'm like the boxes I check are different than compared to he's been playing. They haven't been sitting out. So I wouldn't say. I guess you could say a hard eval. Like I wouldn't really look too much into a kid that hasn't practiced with his team in 2 weeks and go 1 for 8 from the field.
Right.
That's such an outlier, situation for that kid. Normally he's going to be 3 for 6 or, shoot 50-60% from the field, or at least in the high 40s. So there were some games I know I went to that was like, okay, this is really, you can tell they haven't touched the ball. They go up and down probably 3 or 4 possessions and they're winded.
Out of gas, yep.
Out of gas. So, and that's some of the things I'm like, I want to look at the conditioning. I want to look at the rebounding, just that kind of the feel of stuff, and just their intensity, just sitting out, then going back and playing again. I feel that this, in me having played, like just getting used to the intensity and physicality took an adjustment. I always want to see how quick players did adjust to those things. So,
right.
it's just it weird times, but I'm glad it came through. You know, it got through, and you know, we're starting to see some really good basketball. And we got to see some good
Yeah.
basketball.
So the plan is actually, to go see some interesting matchups. I know you had talked about predictions. So what are you thinking?
All right, let's go 3A. Let's go 3A. Let's go 3A. So in who makes it out in San Antonio or it's in Central Texas?
Cole gets back. You know, I mean, it's funny that we say that after having to replace 6'11.
Yeah.
But they've had some kids really kind of buy into their roles and do a good job. Cantu had a loaded schedule. You know, he played against Faith Family, played against Westlake, played against pretty much all of the top 6A schools here in the city of San Antonio and Austin. And didn't duck and dodge one bit. I mean, even in fall league, he said, "Hey, we're gonna have to play without him, so we're gonna have to figure it out." So I think Cole, with their strength of schedule, is gonna help them get through this. 4A, Bernie beat Somerset. Like I said, just with their experience, some things that they're able to do should be able to get them over the hump. 5A, Leander Glenn, Trey Leak and Thompson and those kids, you know, are doing some really good stuff. I think they get out.
Okay.
And then 6A, Westlake. I think they'll be able to play a complete game. The last couple of games, they've been kind of pretty good quarter, off a quarter, pretty good quarter. I think the opponent that they're about to get, they match up really well, and they get to do things that they really like to do well. So they'll wind up winning. I don't want to say a big margin, but they'll win.
Okay. That's interesting. Do any of those teams you said that are coming out, do they win a state title? Putting you on the spot.
Yes, you did.
Yeah.
Yes, you did. Bernie is going to be your closest spot.
Okay. So you're not predicting the way you said they're the closest.
Bernie will match up with Silsby next round, which will determine the state champion.
Okay. And does Bernie win?
The state championship?
Yeah.
Ooh, wait.
Don't worry, I'm gonna give my prediction as well too. So you're in the hot seat right now, but I'm gonna be in the hot seat a little bit. So don't worry about it. It's all good.
I'm gonna say
Jeffrey's gonna be in the hot seat too pretty soon.
Yeah, he's gonna have to represent his area.
Yeah.
He's gonna have to represent his area, you know. But we won't be politically. We'll be politically correct right now.
Okay. Cool. Perfect. That's good. I like that, Tim. I like that. Don't answer the question, but not answer the question. All right, that's fair enough. Tim, always good to have you.
Well, we work well together, man. It's good that you're able to read between the lines and kind of see that, you know.
I can read it. It's all good. It's all good. Always good having you, Tim. You know, you really cover Central Texas area really, really well. You know, we work together. It's all love, especially in our Texas boys basketball, Texas grassroots basketball. I'm going to see you when I get San Antonio in the finals. But, you know, always appreciate your work, appreciate everything you've done to help me out. And, you know, we definitely going to get you back on. I'm just glad to have you for a second time.
Yeah, man. All right, now.
All right, then.
We'll see you soon. All right, Ani.
All right, then. Later. All right, so now let's get Jeffrey on here. Talk some Houston. I'm going to put him in the hot seat, so I hope Jeff's ready.
Hey, what's going on, man?
What's good?
Nothing much, man.
Yeah. So, how's everything been? How's everything been going, especially with playoffs?
Man, everything's been crazy. My bracket's already been busted, man. You're talking about putting me on the hot seat. And you know, but hey, I love it, man. I love this type of atmosphere. Anybody can win any game. You know, there's always favorites on paper, but you never know, man. You know, teams have came and brought it, and a lot of teams have shocked a lot of people with how far they got. Some teams, you know, this is the furthest that they've ever made in their school's history as well. You know, teams like Goose Creek Memorial, you know, they just lost to Katy Pato. Also new territory for Katy Payton as well. They're a new school. This is the furthest that they've ever been. Um, but they have a tough task ahead of them in Beaumont United. So we'll see, man. We'll see what happens.
Uh, yeah, there's a lot going, especially in the Houston area. I saw a lot of scores that really kind of, I wouldn't say shocked me, but it was just, my tenor rose. I was like, whoa, that's didn't expect that a little bit. Just talk about some of the, I guess you could say, upsets, or just some of the unexpected outcomes that have happened. Just kind of go talk about that a little bit.
Okay. One team that stands out as an unexpected outcome definitely is Houston Heights. A
Mhm.
lot of people didn't expect for them to have the playoff run that they were able to have this year. But they did a really good job. Coach Barreras, he came from Sam Houston. He did a really good job at Sam Houston. He took a team with a bunch of 5'11", 6 foot in between 5'11", 6'2" guys to stayed a couple years back with Sam Houston, and so he just has that coaching pedigree. He was able to get those guys to buy in, and they beat a couple teams, made it to the third round of the playoffs, way further than what a lot of people expected them to make it. Just we kind of talked about Goose Creek making it as far as they made it. A lot of people didn't expect for them to make it, all the way to the regional semifinals, the fourth round of the playoffs. Um, so big shout out to them and all that they're doing over there. And then as well, everybody was talking about the Crosby Hightower game um, as being an upset, but for me, I feel that it was coming in. It could have went either way, but
Okay.
a lot of people felt it was an upset because Hightower has Bryce Griggs, of course, and so just the expectations for him to be able to make it to a state championship because that's where they were headed last year. But also he had, four seniors on the team who are all playing collegiate basketball right now.
Yeah.
Um, and so that makes a big difference as well. And so those are just some of the teams um, that people kind of felt like they exceeded people's expectations and made it further than what people thought they were going to make it. And shout out to all those coaches and to all the players who bought in and worked hard all the way from October until when their season had to end, unfortunately.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, that Crosby Hightower game. My boy John Yuri caught me
Oh
really
yeah,
excited. I saw PJ had what 30 points, 13 rebounds, or something like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah. He did.
Um, and I know that was a very highly anticipated game there. Talk about PJ Haggerty. I mean, that was a big time statistical performance he put on. But just talk about how his play's been through the season. He's really carried that Crosby team, and they win a couple rounds.
Yeah,
So
no.
yeah.
He has. PJ has had an excellent year. He's the leading scorer in the state of Texas if you go by the stats from Max Preps.
Hmm.
Like you said, he's kind of put the team on his back. He's grown maybe about an inch and a half.
Okay.
He's put on some muscle. Not a really slender kid like he used to be. So he's filling out his frame a little bit, playing a little bit more aggressively. Still smooth, still can shoot the three ball. But the fact that he's able to be a leader, I think that's not what everybody was expecting to see from him. Him kind of telling guys, this is what we need to be, this way you need to be, this is what we're going to be doing. Hey, let's slow it down. Hey, let's speed it up. Those are things that we haven't seen in the past from him, but we have been seeing it now. Um, we all know he's a high volume shooter. He's going to get his shots. He's going to attack the rim, get to the free throw line. And so just the fact of him being a leader, I really is what has impressed a lot of people the most about him.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, I didn't get to really see him play this season, but seeing how well Crosby was doing with him being the leader showed growth as far as him,
Mhm.
being a leader,
Yeah.
being a vocal leader. It's funny, those 22s, especially those juniors, you start to see that more. I was talking to a college coach about, how Keontae George has really grown as a leader. You
Mhm.
know, the stuff that I'm seeing him vocally do and how he's encouraging his guys, how he's getting his teammates to really buy in. I wasn't seeing that freshman, sophomore year. But now, seeing it now, and it seems like PJ's really just stepped up in that. And there's a couple other just 22s that like a Brendan Hausen that's in Amarillo.
Yeah,
He's doing the same thing. These guys is the more birthdays they get,
hmm
the more they play basketball, they start to figure it out, and then they're learning from upperclassmen that they saw when they were freshmen and sophomores,
right.
and they get to learn from that. So that's really good to hear about PJ and how his growth as just a leader has came. And then I heard 13 rebounds or 10. I mean, just double
Yeah,
digit
yeah,
rebounds in
yeah.
a game
13
like
rebounds. Yeah.
that. And he's grown a little bit, so he's about 6'2" now.
Yep. About 6'2", 6'2.5". Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really big. So talk about some other games you got to watch, and just keep me up. Give me an update on Houston. I haven't been able to see a game in a minute out there.
Um, I've seen a lot of playoff games. I like it when they were able to excuse me, have quadruple headers.
Yeah,
That was kind of my favorite part, like the first round and then some second round matchups when you're able to watch, 4 games in one day. And so, a team like Cypress Creek, who had a really strong season as well. They finished 21-4 overall in their season. They were on a 20-game win streak before it
wow.
got snapped. And so, that's kind of another team that people kind of felt like, okay, how good are they? And so them making it to the third round, the furthest that they've made it in years,
Mhm.
really showed, a lot of leadership from DJ Richards as well. He's been playing really consistent the whole entire season, and kept that same play and same energy going into the playoffs. And then you have teams like Summer Creek, who a lot
Yeah,
of people didn't even expect for them to be where they are right now. Either people had a lot of people in their brackets that I seen. They had them going to the fourth round. Making
hmm,
it to regional semifinals, which they did. But now they're in the championship game, regional final game versus Atascocita. A district foe, somebody who they play twice a year, and they both have split the matchup. So that game's going to be really interesting. Their guard play is terrific.
yeah,
Coach Coleman does a really good job with what he has. He's an old school coach, and I like that because if the guys buy into him, he's willing to allow them to play their style of basketball within his system and not kind of handicap them. And then he doesn't care who he has on the team. Whoever he has, that's who we rolling with. He don't care about who's leaving, who's coming in. The guys I have, if I get them to buy in, I know what we can do. And so they're just one of those teams, scrappy, 5'8" guard, another 5'8" guard that starts. Then you have Amari Abrams, about 6'2", and then you have Jaquil Registry, the freshman, who's been playing phenomenal. He's about 6'4", and then Reese Allen about 6'5", and so that's pretty much it. And everybody else off the bench is guards, and so they don't have a lot of size, but they're a very scrappy bunch. They get after it, and so Summer Creek has had a really good run so far in its playoffs. Um, and so really interested to see that matchup that will be played at Delmar Fieldhouse as they take on Atascocita. We all know
yeah.
senior heavy. These guys have been together for a very long time. Coach Martinez does a great job with Atascocita as well. Um, it's going to be tough for me to pick who's going to win that game.
Okay, so
But
it's coming.
that should be a yeah, I know it's going to come up eventually, man. But no, that's just like I seen a lot of 6A, and then last night I got to watch Beaumont United play Pflugerville Hendrickson. I seen Pflugerville last year as a 6A school. They made it to the second round of the playoffs, got bounced out, and then they dropped down to 5A. Same thing, Beaumont United was 6A last year. They dropped down to 5A. But Beaumont United 28-0 right now. They're just a well-oiled machine, man. Well-oiled, even though and they're young. That's the scary part.
Yeah, Beaumont United is a really really scary group.
Yeah.
They're young. Terrence Arsenault kind of is the main player on there, but they are they're a really scary team. I got to just watch some whole game film. I'm just like whoa, you
hmm
know, they can get a lot done. Talk about Amari Abrams at Summer Creek. He's just someone that just got to see in the summer, got to see a little bit in fall, but really seen some progressions in this game. And now Summer Creek's right there. regional finals. Talk about how his play's been in the playoffs.
Yeah, no, very polished, man. Controls every aspect of the game. To speed it up, to slow it down aspect. Okay, I got a mismatch. I'm gonna even bury him in the post. And so, that's something that you don't see a lot of guards do. When they know that I'm physically stronger than the guy holding me, I'm gonna go post him up. And so you don't see that a lot. Really
Right.
solid playing off the ball as well. We know he's very shifty, decisive with the ball in his hands. But his game has just grown as his IQ more than anything. Skill set pretty much still the same, but his IQ, knowing knowing where the mismatches are, knowing okay when to feed the bigs, when not to feed the bigs, knowing hey I need to be in help side on defense as a freshman. And sophomore, we seen him a lot, kind of just on an island by himself more so. Now he's more of a like, okay, team guy. So just his IQ is really what has impressed me this whole entire year. Of course, he's gotten bigger, stronger. You could tell he's been in the weight room. But just his IQ, man. And somebody the other day they was like, man, it looks like he's moving in slow motion. I said because the game is kind of easy, a little bit
Yeah,
easy for him, and so I don't need to play super super fast all the time. I can kind of set you up slow, hit you with a real quick move, and then once I get my hip around you, or once I get my spacing, I know how to get to my spot and take my time. And so that's just something that really has improved in his game, his IQ of the game.
got you. So that's interesting. You said that he's starting to post up, smaller guards and starting to read the mismatch a little bit. Uh, was so that wasn't something that he was really. I didn't really see a whole lot of that in the past. So that's something he's really implemented
Yeah.
over post game.
Yeah, no, yeah, yeah. Starting to play more so in the post. I just think he realizing, okay, I'm bigger, and this I can get an easier bucket if I just go ahead and post you up right now, instead of me trying to, do a couple of swing, hezzy, cross dribble moves, body you get to the rim. Now I got two or three guys coming at me. And so I just think just his IQ of the game. I don't know if somebody's been working with him on that per se. I can't say, but
Hmm.
just seeing it in the game, that's something that you don't really see a lot in the high school level when guards take other guards down to the post to impose their will.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's something you really don't see, and you see guards with bigger frames, and you always like, man, that kid learns a drop step or just kind of a face up and attack,
Hmm.
just or with a jab, and if a big strong guard would do that in a high school game, obviously, is it sexy? No,
Yeah,
right?
no.
Like that is
Hmm.
not is not what you're not gonna see that be on a high like on a highlight tape on social media,
Right. Yeah.
but it's that something that's going to win you basketball games.
Hmm.
Absolutely, if you do it efficiently. So that's really good that Amari's been doing that. I like how hard Amari plays. I mean, I don't
Yeah.
think there's a game I've seen that he doesn't play hard.
Yeah. No. He
Really
does.
get into the basket, physical, tough. He's gonna talk a little bit noise, which I like. I mean,
Hmm.
but he's generally quiet. But when he does talk, that means he's either really cooking
Oh
you or
yeah.
you really
Yeah.
made
He's in the zone. Yeah.
him mad.
Yes, he is.
So uh, so that's always has been a good thing. Who's some other standouts in Houston? So in
Um, just during the whole playoffs, man. A kid like Sam Bradford from Goose Creek Memorial, about
mm-hmm,
6'5", wing guard. Um, it's really kind of trying to find his way as into solidifying a position, what he really could be.
mm-hmm,
Because you can play him as a point forward per se. Jump shot has improved since last year, so that's good. So now he can kind of be looked at more of like a guard as well. Somebody who can do some catch and shooting. Very aggressive attacking to the rim. Finishes a lot above the rim now more so than ever before. And so just him polishing up his game, kind of trying to find himself. Had a really good playoff run. Whole season led the way for the team. This is his junior year, second year being the team leading scorer. Another all district pick. So he's been really solid. Trevor Frank out of Katy Paytow has had a really solid playoff run as well. Becoming a leader right before our own eyes. Making sure that we feed the post and Big Charles
mm-hmm.
Chuckwu.
Yep.
Hopefully, I didn't mispronounce your last name. But knowing when to feed him, when to get him going, so that the inside outside game could get flowing for them. You know, he's had a really good playoff performance as well. We talked about Arsenal, but also on that team, Wesley Yates has been playing really well in the playoffs, as well as Kendrick Henry. He's the only senior on Beaumont United.
Hmm.
Um, 6'3" guard. You know, any small schools, D3s, NAIAs looking for like a rugged guard who's going to get after it, defensively scrappy, can shoot the ball, strong on his attack, absorbs contact, finishes well at the rim. You know, he's one of those guys who's going to make a team happy. Smaller school, very happy. Whoever gets their hands up on that kid, Kendrick Henry. He's been playing really well here in the playoffs as well. Um, Jacob Harvey, he's already committed, going to Trinity University, D3 school down there in San Antonio. But he's been leading Huffman. He always has, but in this playoff, it's been more so of as a facilitator than a scorer.
Okay.
We know he can shoot the ball.
Right.
We know he's been the leading scorer since his freshman year on varsity. But now he's like in the playoffs. I got the stats from his coach because I watched their third round game. I watched the film of it, and I was intrigued. I was like, man, he had like 8 or 9 assists. And so
Yeah.
then I reached out to the coach, and I'm like, Coach, could you send me the stats from all the games? And he was like, oh yeah, yeah. We got him broken down from the film. And just in the playoffs alone, he's averaging 10 assists a game. And I'm just like, okay, that's a different aspect of your game. Like never seen the facilitating side before. So just interesting that him versus Silsby, that's going to be a really good matchup as well, man, in the 4A as well. So those are just a couple of prospects who've really been very consistent during this playoff run.
Mhm. No, that's Sam Bradford came to my camp in our camp in June in
Uh-huh.
Houston. Was actually the first event we ran with coming back from quarantine. Very intriguing. Goods had about 6'5", got some solid length to him.
Hmm.
Uh, deep, solid perimeter skills. You saw him shooting. You saw the potential where his shooting can get to, and
Yeah.
you saw where he can potentially be as a playmaker. So he was someone that I really was just intrigued by. We just watching. I was like, okay, he kind of had a dunk and transition here. Then he came in. Then he kind of kicked it out to the open shooter off a drive. So just a lot of little things that I saw in his game that I thought, okay, if he ever just really polishes his skill set, that he'll be in really good shape.
Hmm.
So definitely like that. Sam has really improved. And Paytow, Charles, when I saw Charles, grown man, body,
Yeah.
like he just
Yes.
strong. I mean, I was saying, he's like a bodybuilder, not a bodybuilder, like a bouncer.
Hmm.
I roll with him in the club, I ain't gonna be no
Right.
issues.
Yeah. He's like one of those bouncers at the EYBL events, man.
Right, right, yo, no problem.
Hmm.
And so, but like how he finishes, like we're within 5 feet in, and just through contact, the conditioning wasn't all the way there. Talk about how was he progressed throughout the year? Because he's who I told the college coach. I said, is he there yet? No, obviously not. And bigs aren't. You're not going to expect a big to be there beginning of junior year, but because he hasn't played basketball for a long time, and you look at size and athleticism, there's so much room for growth.
Yeah.
So, how has that kind of been coming along?
Charles has been pretty much the same. He really hasn't improved per se, but I don't know if he's working on, little skill things. It's more
Mhm.
so of the same thing that you see the rim running. Like you said, anytime he catches the ball 6 feet in, he's dunking on you. Doesn't matter who you are, big guard, goes through contact really well, rebounds the ball. He's really strong, very aggressive guy. Sets really good screens. So, his game has kind of been, what you see is what you get from Charles. Very athletic. I will say though his timing on shot blocking has improved. Before he kind of jumped at everything. Now he kind of got his timing down, and he's not just altering the shots, but he's blocking way more shots.
Okay.
And so that has improved on the defensive side. But offensively, the same old Charles, give me the ball in the post, catch me while I'm running, catch me in a dunk spot. from the short corner. And so that's his game, man. And he's able to play well enough to draw a lot of double teams and triple teams to where it opens up everything else for his teammates on the perimeter.
Got you, got you. I like Charles. He's a good kid. I got to talk to him a little bit.
Hmm.
And that's good that he's still playing within his strengths. I would not have liked to you have told me, hey, Charles is shooting more threes, right?
Yeah,
So it's good that he's excelling what he's doing best. What he does
yeah,
best, which is rim running, finishing at the rim. It seems like he's in better shape. For a big man to have a higher volume of shot altering and blocking. That means
hmm,
you're jumping more, right? You're getting it.
yep,
So it seems like his condition is getting better. His feel as a help side defender has improved.
hmm.
He can be such a problem down low, and
Oh
that's good
yeah,
that Paytal just really, like you said, Paytal hasn't. It's been, I don't know how long it's been if they ever been to the regional finals. So
yeah,
that's
no, yeah. This is the first for them. The school is 4 years old, the high school. So they're making history right now.
right.
Very young high school, yeah.
And then for a big man, especially more on a guard oriented, not saying he's on play, but like for a big man to be that premier face,
Hmm.
and to go that far in the playoffs is really impressive. It just
No,
shows,
it is.
it shows like big men in the playoffs. And like I saw, like I was saying earlier in the show, I saw Mount Pleasant and Lancaster, and the big man for Lancaster was a huge reason,
Hmm.
for a win, just because of blocking, altering shots, and rebounding, and just his overall size just creates, just hard looks for opposing guards, even if he's just standing there not even doing anything. Sometimes it just,
Yeah,
knowing that he's there
yeah. The
makes it,
presence.
yeah, it just makes a difference. So that's that's really good. That's really good to hear. Terrence Arsenault. I know I probably mentioned Terrence Arsenault about 6-7 times on the in our shows, but talk about that Beaumont United group, how Terrence Arsenault has really grown. Wesley Yates, I believe, is on that team as well.
Yes, he is.
So
Um,
just talk about how they've been playing.
man, the 28-0. Coach Green usually his teams play more of a slow pace. We're gonna take our time, half court sets. Um, he's been having them boys press. He's playing them to their strengths.
Mhm.
Not just to me as a coach's strength, but I'm playing my guys to their strength. I know these guys can get after it. And so that's part of the reason, kind of a coach letting his players be them, but then also still teaching them the game of basketball at the same time. Um, 28-0. Terrence Arsenal has been phenomenal this year. Everybody's screaming for him to get on the national radar more, just from the area. And his time will come. He has the summer ahead of him. Going into his senior season, he's going to be playing somebody's EYBL team. I don't know whose. I can't say for certain.
Yeah,
But I know he will be on one
yeah.
for sure.
He's done get a
Um,
Nike check on
yeah, yeah.
there.
So he'll have his opportunity to play in front of more of the national media guys, kind of boost his stock. Get some coaches will get to see him play against other top prospects as well. Via Baller TV and other film, and so his time will come. But he's really been consistent the whole entire year. Kind of what you see is what you get from him. I could stretch out the floor because I could shoot threes. I could take you to the rim. Just yesterday, like he was cutting back door. He caught the ball and Mashai Hill, 6'9" kid from Pflugerville
Yeah.
Henderson, went to jump with him and Terrence dunked it on him. And
Oof.
so just shows his athleticism. He has no fear of who's at the rim or who's under the rim or who's challenging him. Smooth game. He facilitates, gets his teammates involved. I'm starting to see that he talks a lot more. I didn't know he was a trash talker.
I didn't know either.
But yeah, talks a lot more, says a lot of slick stuff on the side, gets guys going, and but in the end, it fuels him more so than it does the opponent. And so that's what I've been noticing with him as well. And he's just been really solid, really good. Wesley Yates, we all know he's a shooter, but now he's trying to dunk on people. Like
Okay.
just yesterday he had 5 dunk attempts, and they were all on the big man, like 6'9" guy, a 6'7" guy. Like he wasn't trying to dunk on no guards. He's trying to dunk on big guys. Um, and so just the growth of his game, the athleticism of his game that is growing, is going to benefit him as well. He shedded off a lot of that, baby weight that he had from middle school when everybody's like, oh, he's a chubby kid. That's kind of is going away. It keeps going away. You can kind of start seeing a little definition in his arms. So you can tell that he's kind of hitting the weights just a little bit as well. And then they got a freshman that also is playing. A couple of freshmen. One starts for varsity, and his name is K. Dotson, shooter about 6'1", 6'2". He helps them stretch out the floor because he's a really good catch and shoot player. And so, they just got a lot of pieces with Arsenal being the forefront guy. And then, you got Wesley Yates, you got Traylon Portier, 6'5" wing guy, dual sport athlete, already holds a couple of D1 football offers, but he's just one of them junkyard dogs. I'm going to get in there. I'm going to get after all the 50-50 balls. I'm going to crash the rebounds. And so he does that and plays that role for them. But then he also can turn around and score the basketball. He facilitates really well from out the post, even though he's a little undersized to be in the post. But it's high school basketball.
Right.
So, and I've emphasized it that way because a lot of parents want their kids to be guards. And you can still be a guard, but on high school, if you're a guard, if you have guard skills and post skills,
Takes you a long way.
yeah,
Takes you a
it's
long
going to
way.
benefit you. Trust me on that. And so, Arsenal's he's been doing a really good job, really phenomenal. I'm just going to allow for his summer to speak more so for himself than this year because I just feel that he's going to have a really good summer. A lot of people are going to get to know him. It's kind of like a lot of people I've been getting calls about Aaron Scott from Legacy.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
just a lot of guys like, man, we never seen him before. COVID kind of happened, so he wasn't able to play. But he was slated to play with the Houston Hoops, but he wasn't able to get out on that circuit and be seen. And so I kind of feel for Arsenal. He'll have his opportunity this summer and he'll show it. Well as Wesley Yates, Traylon Portier, and the freshman kid, K. Dotson.
Gotcha. No, that's a good list. I agree. I know Terrence. I want to say in both national the main national athlete.
Yeah, he
I like
stopped.
no offense to other national outlets. It's just
Yeah.
20% rival on the national ranking. I believe he's ranked top 100. He's top 100 kid, and I'm like you. I think he's better than that. I think this season showing better than that, and no one's really been able to see him like as far as them. But I definitely think this spring and summer, he's going to really have a strong performance. He's a great kid. I got to interview him in June, and one of the better interviews that I had this year. I love interviews with kids that are just truthful. They're just being themselves, right? Because just the way he's talking, his goals and stuff. He was talking about, winning a state title for Beaumont United this year, and he was just talking about, how much he needs to grow and what he's been working on through quarantine and what he still needs to work on. And it seems like he just was doing those things, and he has a sense of urgency to work on those things. And I think spring and summer, he's a kid that kind of plays with a little bit chip on the shoulder now that I haven't seen. Like in the past, I didn't really see that, right? And now I'm starting to see like, hey, I'm gonna show you I'm the best player on the court. And I think we're going to see more of the same this club season. So let's go with picks. I'm not gonna do you like I do Tim. I ain't gonna do you like I did Tim. All right. So
All right.
we can start 3A, 4, whichever A you want to start with. But let's just go ones in the Houston area that are going to make it to the Final Four. And if you want to go a step further, say make it to the state championship game.
Okay. We'll start 4A. We'll do 4.
Okay, let's do 4.
I picked Huffman from the beginning before it even started. People told me I was crazy for picking Huffman over Yates. But I had picked Huffman from the as soon as the playoffs were slated to go, I picked Huffman. Silsby upset at Yates, so now you got Silsby versus Huffman. I'm still gonna roll my pick Huffman um, to come out. I don't know who they're gonna play from San Antonio.
That would be the winner of Bernie and Somerset. So that's still being
Yes, yeah, I
Harvard.
don't know those two teams. Yeah,
And,
but I'm picking Huffman to go to state, man.
okay.
Faith Family is a tough task, and I'm gonna just say I'm picking Huffman
Okay.
to go to state. That's what I'm gonna say. I'm picking Huffman to go to state. I got
Okay.
Huffman over Silsby. Huffman to represent 4A for Houston.
Okay.
5A Beaumont United, hands down.
Okay.
I got them going. I got them winning state.
Okay.
I know Lancaster is there, but I don't know, man. I just think that this is a really good young core. I know Lancaster got some dudes, man, especially with Wade Taylor, and it's gonna be a good game.
Yeah.
I really want it to be a good game, but I'm pulling for Beaumont United to win state. And then 6A to represent Houston, I'm gonna go with Atascocita.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with Atascocita.
So we're not going to go. Did they make it to the state title game?
Yeah, Atascocita going to state. They're gonna have to play Westlake,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they'll beat KJ Adams and company. But I'm just saying they're going to state, man. I'm not saying.
Okay. Cool.
I'm gonna say that.
Perfect. So we got your predictions. We got 10 predictions. I guess Jeff, you're on. I'm gonna make mine. I'm gonna make mine.
Yeah.
3A. I'll go 3A. Madison's winning it all. Dallas Madison gonna win it all.
Man, what is this, like 20 years in a row for them, man?
Yeah, I don't know. Coach Mobley got that thing rolling. I think Coach Bob, he assists over there. I think Dallas Madison gonna win 3A. 4A. Ooh wee. You know, Faith Family wins it all.
Yeah, Faith Family's tough, man.
Faith Family wins it all for me. Carter's going to give Faith Family hell. That's going to be a great game, but I think Faith Family wins it all. I think they're just a little bit more deeper. Coach Love, mind you, can go about 15 guys. So maybe deep is not where I think they're a little bit stronger in the more key positions, and they got more depth, like stronger depth, I would say, those key positions. But wouldn't be surprised if I think it's Faith Family, but Carter's going to get Faith Family help. So we'll go 5A, and this one is 5A and 6A is really tough. I got Amarillo beating Mansfield Summit, and then Lancaster and Kimball.
That's an interesting matchup, man.
Yeah, interesting matchup. We were round 2 on this. I have Kimball. Going Kimball for the Shocker. All right, for the Shocker. Okay. And then here's why. It's hard to beat a team 3 times.
No, it is.
They beat them twice in district. I think it's hard to beat them 3 times. I think Kimball figures it out the 3rd time.
Okay.
In saying that, who wins 5A? I'm gonna go with your pick. I think Beaumont United. Go Beaumont United.
Yes,
all right. And so people can't say I'm just Dallas biased. All right. I mix some Houston in there.
That's true. They can't say that no more.
You can't say that no more. You can't say that. I mix some Houston in there. 6A. Ooh wee. Richardson beats Jesuit. Duncanville and Waxahachie at Waxahachie. I go Duncanville.
Okay.
Duncanville beats Waxahachie, and you picked Atascocita, and then Tim picked Westlake, who I got too. I believe Atascocita beats Westlake. Richardson and Duncanville, I got Duncanville.
Okay.
I think depth's going to play a part. I think just the role play is going to play a huge part in that. Hard to count against Case and Wallace and Riley Griffin, but you know it's also very hard to count against Duncanville too. So who wins it all? Atascocita and Duncanville. I got Duncanville. Duncanville winning by at least 8 points.
Yeah, that's gonna be
So
It's all tough, man. Duncanville's tough.
that,
Um,
yeah, they're tough, and I think if they lose, they'll lose this week. If Duncanville lose, they lose. They lose against Waxahachie.
Waxahachie, okay.
Yeah, if they lose, they lose against Waxahachie. But I have them going for it all. Now, obviously, do we get paid to make picks? So obviously, this is all fun, right?
Yeah, no, yeah. This is fun, man. But people treat me like I get paid. They come in my head.
Hey, listen. At the end of the day, when people got this, I made my picks right.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm wrong, that's fine. I just want to see some good plays, some good basketball.
That's it. That's all I want to see at the end of the day, man. So if Waxahachie wins, Waxahachie Richardson, who do you have?
I got Richardson.
Okay.
I got Richardson. Barely.
Okay. I would like to see that matchup though.
Yeah.
I just would like to see CJ Nolan, man, and Casey Wallace go at each other.
That would be that would be one of the best guard pairing matchups that we see in all the Scholastics. And one of the best we'll see in the Scholastic season would be a Casey Wallace and CJ Nolan matchup. I like Beaumont United. I think Terrence Arsenault in that group, and I got to see them. They're not really lacking a whole lot of things, and they're really strong, really good coaching.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think they win it. If Lancaster beats Kimball a third time, I would have Lancaster.
Okay.
I would say Lancaster wins. I'm only going off just hard to beat someone 3 times.
Yeah, no, it is. That's
it is hard. Now Lancaster can do it. Lancaster is very well good enough to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm just gonna go surprise pick. I'm gonna change it up. I'm not gonna just be the go for the what. I'm gonna change it up a little bit. But if Lancaster wins, fantastic. Because I love watching Wade. I love watching Chris Morgan, Elijah Huey. I love watching. You guys say I love watching all them boys play. It always creates good games. So most definitely, it's Jeffrey. It's been fun. Have you? We had you on the second time. I told you we're gonna bring you back. This ain't gonna be the last time either.
I appreciate it.
Hopefully I didn't hit you with too hard of questions.
Oh no. I like talking about basketball, and so those are easy questions. You're not asking me like no mathematical equations.
Right. Yeah, you asked me a math question. I'll just say, make sure it's multiple choice so I can just circle C or something.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But Jeff, I appreciate you having you on as always. See, you gonna be in San Antonio for the final?
Yes, sir. I'll be down there.
All right, so I'll see you over there, and anything you need on my end, just let me know. All right.
All right, sure will, man. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. So we conclude our episode playoff edition of Inside High School Hoops. This is ISO Ani. You guys stay blessed, stay safe. And you'll see me in the basketball gym pretty soon. And as we get through this Scholastic season, we go to the spring and summer ball. So we do a whole lot of traveling there. But next week episode, you'll see my I guess I won't give you'll see my updated predictions because unless like it all goes as planned as far as the teams that win that I predicted, but just get more insight on what happened throughout the state of Texas in the regional final matchups, and it's gonna be fun. I enjoyed these times, so you guys stay blessed, have a good day, and we'll see you next week.